The Admiral hears the SEAL Janitor speak 9 languages. Then her next move stuns the entire base. Before sunrise, Naval Base Harrington feels half asleep, its corridors lit by cold fluorescent light. No one notices the janitor mopping the floor outside the intelligence wing. They walk past her like she's air. But in one quiet moment, an admiral hears a sound that freezes his blood. The janitor speaking 9 languages. Naval Base Harrington woke slowly, the same way it had for decades. The same boots hitting the same tile floors. The same officers complaining about schedules, budgets, and intel gap. And the same quiet woman pushing a faded blue janitor's cart down the hallway long before anyone else arrived. To most people on base, she was simply Maya, the cleaning lady. A woman with tired eyes who kept her head down and never corrected anyone who mispronounced her name. Her uniform hung loose on her small frame, the patches washed thin from years of industrial detergent. She avoided eye contact, never joined conversations, and moved like someone trying to leave no ripples behind. What officers never noticed were her pauses. Tiny moments when she lingered near briefing rooms, copying details into her memory as easily as others breathe. They never saw how her eyes sharpened when she passed documents left out overnight. They never noticed how her sweeping matched the rhythm of the languages echoing through the rooms. People assumed silence meant ignorance. They assumed invisibility meant simplicity. Maya let them, because staying unseen was safer than being known. And safer than remembering who she used to be. Every morning, Lieutenant Briggs strutted through the intelligence wing like he owned every bolt in it. He talked loudly, laughed loudly, and carried himself with the confidence of a man who had never questioned his place in the world. When he passed Maya, he didn't slow down. He simply lifted his trash bin and let papers fall into her path, expecting her to catch them before they hit the floor. Sometimes, when he spoke with foreign officers, he changed his voice. He slowed his English, exaggerated his syllables, and glanced back at Maya as if to say, "See? Even they struggle." Maya just nodded, cleaning the coffee stains he left behind. No one asked where her accent came from. No one asked why she avoided fluorescent rooms with maps pinned to the walls. No one wondered how she always appeared exactly where the most sensitive conversations happened. She was so quiet that even her coworkers didn't know much. Carlos, the maintenance lead, tried every week to invite her to lunch. She always smiled politely, gave the same gentle "maybe next time," and returned to her cart. She lived like a ghost by choice. Because ghosts couldn't be questioned. Ghosts couldn't be hurt. It happened on a Tuesday. The kind of day that begins without warning and changes everything. A Spanish liaison officer and a junior analyst were arguing near the operations table, their voices climbing as frustration consumed them. Spanish phrases collided with English technical jargon, forming a storm of confusion neither could untangle. Maya was cleaning fingerprints off the glass wall when she heard one word, rastrier, to track, and her feet paused for the smallest fraction of a second. The analyst insisted that the translation was locate. The Spanish officer shook his head, insisting it meant shadow, a tactical difference that could compromise an entire operation. The argument escalated. Papers shuffled. Pens tapped impatiently. Maya kept wiping the glass, her gaze lowered, but her ears tuned sharply to every syllable. When the Spanish officer finally threw his hands up and stepped out for air, the analyst muttered under his breath, "Why can't people just speak English?" Maya's cloth slowed. Not enough for anyone to notice, but enough to betray that the word struck something deep inside her, something buried. She walked away quietly. But she whispered the correct meaning under her breath in flawless European Spanish. She didn't think anyone heard. But someone did. Admiral Rowan Hale had been on base for only 2 days, but people already spoke his name with a mix of admiration and fear. He was known for noticing things, small things, forgotten things, things others dismissed. That morning, he walked past the operations room on his way to meet a foreign delegation when he heard a whisper. soft, precise, perfectly accented. Spanish, then Portuguese, then Mandarin, 3 languages sliding from the same quiet voice like water shifting over stone. He stopped mid-stride. Only one person was in the hallway. Maya, wiping down a table no one used. Her back was to him, but he saw her lips moving. Saw her repeat the correct translation the analyst had struggled with. Saw her switch languages as effortlessly as breathing. Something old and instinctive tightened in his chest. He had seen this before. In another life. In another war. He didn't move. Didn't speak. He just watched as she slipped her pencil behind her ear and pushed her cart to the next room, leaving behind a trail of languages like breadcrumbs only he recognized. The officers around him didn't notice, didn't care. But Admiral Hale's pulse hammered. Because he knew that voice, and the world she must have come from. The next moment unfolded quietly, almost tenderly, but it hit like a shockwave. Inside the briefing room, a Russian contractor had left a set of schematics on the table, complex, dense, full of Cyrillic note. The officers nearby stepped out for coffee, leaving everything exposed. Maya entered with her cart, humming softly under her breath. She wasn't aware Admiral Hale stood just outside the doorway in the shadows, unseen. She reached for the papers to shift them aside. But then she froze. Only for a heartbeat. Her eyes scanned the Cyrillic text with shocking ease. Her brow knit slightly, not in confusion, but in irritation. She whispered something in Russian, correcting a mislabeled frequency band. Then she wrote a tiny note in the margin, in perfect Cyrillic script, the handwriting of someone who had lived in that world, not studied it. Hale felt something cold wash over him. 9 languages. 1 woman. A place she didn't belong. A place she was hiding inside. When Maya stepped back, she replaced everything exactly as she'd found it. No trace of her ever touching it. But Hale had seen enough. He no longer looked at her like a janitor. He looked at her like a puzzle the entire base had missed. Admiral Hale didn't confront her. Not yet. People made mistakes when pressured. Walls grew taller when pushed. He needed to watch. To listen. To see who she really was beneath the quiet routine she'd built like armor. By late morning, the corridors buzzed with a French delegation arriving for a joint briefing. Officers rushed to tidy documents, adjust screens, and rehearse presentations. In the chaos, someone dropped a binder full of French intelligence reports. Pages scattered across the floor like startled birds. Maya, passing by with her cart, instinctively knelt and began gathering the papers before anyone else moved. A lieutenant barked, "Leave those, classified," but she had already collected them into a neat stack. He snatched them from her hands with a harsh glare. "She can't read French," he muttered to another officer. "Probably can't read English either." Maya stood slowly, her head bowed as if the words didn't touch her. But Hale, standing at the far end of the hall, saw the slightest tremor in her fingers as she gripped her cart handle. She walked away without a word. But as she turned the corner, Hale heard her whisper softly, correcting the lieutenant's own mispronunciation of a French term. Her voice held no anger, only truth. That night, the base settled into its usual rhythm of hums, clicks, and faraway machinery. Most officers went home. A few analysts stayed late. Security cameras blinked in their fixed patterns, and Maya reappeared, not in her daytime path of offices and hallways, but in a restricted area where only maintenance staff had after-hours access. She moved differently in the dark. More alert, more cautious, more like someone returning to a life she promised herself she'd left behind. She passed a pair of Moroccan contractors arguing over an encrypted data stream. Their Arabic was fast, frustrated. They didn't see her. They didn't care. But Maya listened, her expression tightening as she caught a mistake in their calculations. A mistake that could scramble communications across Allied vessels. Something no one else had caught. She didn't correct them. She didn't speak. She simply memorized the entire exchange, storing it with quiet precision. As she turned down another hallway, her ID card slipped from her pocket. She bent to pick it up, revealing, just for a second badge tucked behind it. One that did not belong to any janitor. And that was precisely the moment Admiral Hale stepped from the shadows. Watching. Measuring. Working late, Hale said gently, his voice low enough not to startle her. Maya straightened, masking her surprise with practiced calm. Yes, sir. Night cleaning schedule. Her English shifted into the quiet, accented tone she used for everyone else on base. Hale studied her carefully. Not her uniform. Not her badge. Her eyes. Eyes that held too many stories for someone living a simple life with a mop and a bucket. You always cover the technical annex at night? He asked casually. She nodded. It's assigned to me. But Hale noticed the subtle tension in her shoulders. The kind that belonged to someone trained to scan exits, calculate threats, and account for every sound. He stepped aside, allowing her to pass. Carry on, he said softly. She moved past him with the same quiet steps she used every morning, but he felt her awareness brush against him like static. She knew he was studying her. She knew something had shifted. When she disappeared down the hallway, Hale exhaled slowly. He had spent 20 years in naval intelligence, trained to identify languages, behaviors, and ghosts who walked inside real people's skin. And Maya walked like someone who used to belong to another world entirely, one filled with danger. The next morning, Hale arrived early, long before the sun colored the sky. He sat at his desk, reading overnight reports, but his attention drifted toward the conference room next door. Inside, a Moroccan liaison and a Spanish intelligence officer clashed over a translation gap in an intercepted message. Their frustration echoed through the thin wall, technical terms, misaligned dialects, timelines that didn't match. Arabic's wrong. This says perimeter, not radius. No, French version says detection. It doesn't even make sense. They left the documents on the table in defeat, storming out through opposite doors. Moments later, Maya entered quietly with her cart. Hale didn't move, but he leaned slightly in his chair, watching through the narrow gap in the doorway. Maya picked up one page. Her eyes scanned it once. Then again, slower. She reached into her pocket, pulled out a pencil worn from years of use, and began writing tiny corrections in Arabic, French, and even Cyrillic, linking meanings, clarifying terminology, adjusting military phrasing with impossible precision. Her notes were perfect, not academic, lived. When she finished, she placed everything back exactly as it had been. Her face remained calm. But Hale knew now. This was no ordinary woman. She moved to the window next, wiping the glass with quiet circles. Her reflection wavered faintly, tired eyes, steady hands, and a posture shaped by years of silence. Hale stood in the doorway now. He said nothing. He wanted to see what she would do without knowing she was seen. Maya paused, her cloth held midair, as if she sensed a shift in the room's gravity. But she didn't turn. She kept cleaning, letting the silence stretch long and thin. Finally, Hale stepped closer. You corrected those documents, he said softly. Maya froze. Not a dramatic freeze, just a stillness that came from someone who had been cornered before. Someone who learned long ago not to show fear. I was only helping, she whispered. No one asked you to, Hale replied. No one listens, she answered. The weight of the truth in her voice hit him like a strike. Maya, he said gently, what languages do you speak? Her shoulders tightened, then relaxed, then tightened again. She didn't turn around. But her voice, quiet, unsteady, listed them one by one. 9 languages, all spoken like native tongues. Hale felt the room tilt. Janitors did not speak 9 languages. Spies did. The helicopter sliced through the morning haze as it descended toward the Joint Expeditionary Command Center, a place most officers only dreamed of entering. Carmen stepped out first, boots touching the tarmac with a firmness that masked the storm inside her. Behind her, Adam followed quietly, hands still cuffed, but his eyes scanning the environment with the calm precision of a seasoned linguist and soldier combined. The Admiral didn't greet anyone. She walked straight into the hangar, a cavernous cathedral of steel where world maps glowed across massive screens. Generals and analysts glanced up, confused. Why was the Admiral bringing a janitor into the nerve center of global defense? She didn't explain. She simply pointed at the chair in the middle of the room. "Sit." Adam obeyed. Then she clicked a remote. A grainy surveillance video appeared. A man in a dimly lit warehouse spoke rapid-fire Russian to a group of masked figures. The room fell silent. Carmen walked behind Adam, leaned close enough for him to hear her heartbeat, and asked just one question. "What is he saying?" The moment his mouth opened, everything changed. Adam didn't hesitate. His voice flowed like water, smooth, precise, unbroken. He translated every word. The plans, the deadlines, the shipment routes, the attack sequence. It wasn't just Russian. He shifted mid-sentence into Chechen, then Arabic, then an obscure dialect that even the intelligence officers had to Google. Every person in the war room froze. Even the projectors seemed to hum quieter to hear him. When he finished, Carmen spoke softly, but her words carried the weight of an earthquake. "He's correct. Every single word." A murmur rippled across the room. General Larson folded his arms. "Ma'am, how long has this man been working here?" Carmen exhaled. 6 months. I thought he was a janitor. Turns out we've been walking past a human encryption key." Analysts began asking questions, one on top of another. Adam answered all of them, flawlessly. His eyes stayed humble, but his voice never wavered. One young officer whispered, "He speaks like he's been trained." Carmen heard it, and she knew the truth was about to break open, whether Adam wanted it to or not. She leaned forward. "Adam, who taught you all this?" His answer detonated the room. Adam's eyes didn't flicker. "My mother." The room blinked collectively, thrown off by an answer too small and too human. Carmen studied him carefully. "Your mother taught you 12 languages?" He nodded. "She was an interpreter for the UN. She said languages weren't words. They were weapons. Bridges. Shields. She taught me that understanding a man's language is how you understand his heart, and how you defeat him without firing a shot." It was the first time he'd spoken with emotion. General Larson leaned forward. "Son, you do realize you just cracked an operation our analysts have been stuck on for 6 months?" Adam stayed quiet. Carmen broke the silence. "Why hide this? Why mop floors on a SEAL base?" This time, Adam inhaled deeply, the kind of breath a man takes before throwing truth into the open. "Because my father didn't want me in the military. He said the world already took too much from us." His voice softened. "So I promised him I'd stay away, stay invisible." He looked down at his bound hands. "I didn't think I'd be found." Carmen realized something. He wasn't hiding from the world. He was protecting it. The room shifted. Not physically, but emotionally, like every person felt the weight of Adam's quiet heroism press into their ribs. Carmen walked around him slowly, circling him like she was analyzing a rare artifact. Then she stopped. "Remove the cuffs." The Marine guard hesitated. "Ma'am, he's still." That was an order. The cuffs clicked open. Adam rubbed his wrists, confusion flickering across his face. Carmen placed a tablet in front of him. "This is a live intercept from an encrypted channel. We need immediate translation." He looked at it, scanned the waveform, listened for 2 seconds, and translated flawlessly. The analysts stared like they were witnessing a magician reveal the final trick. Carmen exhaled slowly, then turned to the room. "Ladies and gentlemen, I've made my decision." Every head lifted. She placed a hand on Adam's shoulder. "This man," she announced, "is no janitor. He's an asset we were too blind to recognize. Effective immediately, he is reassigned under my authority." Adam's eyes widened. Ma'am, reassigned to what? Carmen smiled, but it wasn't gentle. It was the smile of a leader who just discovered her secret weapon. She stood tall. You're joining a classified linguistic response unit. You will operate directly with me. When we intercept hostile languages, you'll decode them. When operations go sideways, you'll interpret. When lives depend on understanding the enemy in seconds, you will be the voice that changes destiny. Adam swallowed. But I'm not a soldier. Carmen stepped closer. You don't need to be. You're something even rarer. He looked up. What's that? A man who listens. Silence wrapped the room. Then Carmen turned to the officers. Prepare his credentials. Clear his access. And for God's sake, stop calling him the janitor. A ripple of restrained laughter broke tension. Adam stood, no longer hunched, no longer invisible. Something inside him shifted, like a door finally opening after years of being locked. Carmen extended her hand. Welcome to the team, Adam. His hand met hers, steady, grounded, ready. For the first time, he didn't feel like a man hiding in shadows. He felt like a man stepping into the role he was born for. On that base, legends were usually forged through combat, grit, and fire. But sometimes a legend was born quietly, mopping floors, sweeping corners, listening instead of shouting. Adam didn't rise because he fought. He rose because he understood. And in a world built on conflict, understanding is power.